Except for cited sources, the following is my opinion and is not intended to represent or present it as the opinion of the members of this community. Most psychologists and the American Psychological Association agree that there is little evidence that polygraph tests can accurately detect lies. Testament by polygrapher. A personal friend of mine is a police officer, who is a polygraphist, and is charged with polygraphing potential new recruits to the force. Zany, he said, a polygraph is more psychological warfare than science. Everything is set up to intimidate the participants into thinking that they work. From attached wires, clips, needles jumping, etc. In reality, it has been shown that no two polygraphists interpret a report the same way. In other words, it only works by convincing your subject that it works. Fair enough. But what does the science say?
American Psychological Association findings. Psychologist Leonard Sachs, Ph.D., has argued, the idea that we can detect a person's veracity by monitoring psychophysiological changes is more myth than reality. Even the term, lie detector, used to refer to polygraph testing, is a misnomer. So-called lie detection involves inferring deception through analysis of physiological responses to a structured, but unstandardized, series of questions. The instrument typically used to conduct polygraph tests consists of a physiological recorder that assesses 3 indicators of autonomic arousal: heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, and skin conductivity. Most examiners today use computerized recording systems. Rate and depth of respiration are measured by pneumographs wrapped around a subject's chest. Cardiovascular activity is assessed by a blood pressure cuff. Skin conductivity, called the galvanic skin or electrodermal response, is measured through electrodes attached to a subject's fingertips. The recording instrument and questioning techniques are only used during a part of the polygraph examination. A typical examination includes a pretest phase during which the technique is explained and each test question reviewed. The pretest interview is designed to ensure that subjects understand the questions and to induce a subject's concern about being deceptive. Polygraph examinations often include a procedure called a stimulation test, which is a demonstration of the instrument's accuracy in detecting deception. Several questioning techniques are commonly used in polygraph tests. The most widely used test format for subjects in criminal incident investigations is the Control Question Test, CQT. The CQT compares responses to relevant questions, e.g., "Did you shoot your wife?" with those of control questions. The control questions are designed to control for the effect of the generally threatening nature of relevant questions. Control questions concern misdeeds that are similar to those being investigated, but refer to the subject's past and are usually broad in scope. For example, have you ever betrayed anyone who trusted you? A person who is telling the truth is assumed to fear control questions more than relevant questions. This is because control questions are designed to arouse a subject's concern about their past truthfulness, while relevant questions ask about a crime they know they did not commit. A pattern of greater physiological response to relevant questions than to control questions leads to a diagnosis of deception. Greater response to control questions leads to a judgment of non-deception. If no difference is found between relevant and control questions, the test result is considered inconclusive.
An alternative polygraph procedure is called the Guilty Knowledge Test, GKT. A GKT involves developing a multiple-choice test with items concerning knowledge that only a guilty subject could have. A test of a theft suspect might, for example, involve questions such as, was $500, $1,000, or $5,000 stolen? If only a guilty suspect knows the correct answer, a larger physiological reaction to a correct choice would indicate deception. With a sufficient number of items, a psychometrically sound evaluation could be developed. GKTs are not widely employed, but there is great interest in doing so. One limitation of the GKT is that it can be used only when investigators have information that only a guilty subject would know. The interpretation of no deception is also a potential limitation, since it may indicate lack of knowledge rather than innocence. The accuracy, i.e., validity, of polygraph testing has long been controversial. An underlying problem is theoretical. There is no evidence that any pattern of physiological reactions is unique to deception. An honest person may be nervous when answering truthfully, and a dishonest person may be non-anxious. Also, there are few good studies that validate the ability of polygraph procedures to detect deception. As Dr. Sachs and Israeli psychologist Gershon Ben Shahar note, it may, in fact, be impossible to conduct a proper validity study. In real-world situations, it's very difficult to know what the truth is. A particular problem is that polygraph research has not separated placebo-like effects, the subject's belief in the efficacy of the procedure, from the actual relationship between deception and their physiological responses. One reason that polygraph tests may appear to be accurate is that subjects who believe that the test works and that they can be detected may confess or will be very anxious when questioned. If this view is correct, the lie detector might be better called a fear detector. Some confusion about polygraph test accuracy arises because they are used for different purposes, and for each context somewhat different theory and research is applicable. Thus, for example, virtually no research assesses the type of test and procedure used to screen individuals for jobs and security clearances. Most research has focused on specific incident testing. The cumulative research evidence suggests that CQTs detect deception better than chance, but with significant error rates, both of misclassifying innocent subjects false positives and failing to detect guilty individuals false negatives. Research on the processes involved in CQT polygraph examinations suggests that several examiner, examinee, and situational factors influence test validity, as may the technique used to score polygraph charts. There is little research on the effects of subjects' differences in such factors as education, intelligence, or level of autonomic arousal. Evidence indicates that strategies used to beat polygraph examinations, so-called countermeasures, may be effective. Countermeasures include simple physical movements, psychological interventions, e.g., manipulating subjects' beliefs about the test, and the use of pharmacological agents that alter arousal patterns. Despite the lack of good research validating polygraph tests, efforts are ongoing to develop and assess new approaches. Some work involves use of additional autonomic physiologic indicators, such as cardiac output and skin temperature. Such measures, however, are more specific to deception than polygraph tests. Other researchers, such as Frank Andrew Kozel, MD, have examined functional brain imaging as a measure of deception. Dr. Kozel's research team found that for lying, compared with telling the truth, there is more activation in 5 brain regions. However, the results do not currently support the use of fMRI to detect deception in real-world individual cases. Significance and practical application. Polygraph testing has
Discussion. Isn't it time we start demanding that pseudoscience have no role in the criminal justice system? The United States Supreme Court has ruled that juries should be the finder of truth, not a machine, and forbids its admissibility. Yet, the U.S. government uses it for employment and security checks. The American Civil Liberties Union has found that polygraphs produce racial bias. Psychopaths can easily pass. The use of certain medications can allow a guilty party to pass. So why are we relying on them to help find the murderer of Libby and Abby? They are factually unreliable and need to stop being a part of this, or any